Hello, 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 and welcome everyone to the February edition of the Bindplane Community Call. Once again, I'm your host, Adnan. I do all things developer relations here at Bindplane, and with me today I have both uh, Dylan and Denton from our team. And boy, are we hyped to show you some new niceties from the last month. Um, we're going to be obviously doing a demo, but we'll also answer some questions and also answer your burning questions to whatever you've been up to in the last month as well. So for introductions, let me first hand over the mic to Denton, and let's get the party started.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, hi everyone. Dutton Kreitz, sales engineer here at Bindplane. Excited to be chatting with you all today.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dylan Moyers. I'm our principal DevOps engineer on our field team, and I'm also excited to present some stuff for you guys today.
Yeah, we have a 20-minute or so demo prepared, so let's get all of the talking out of the way by first running into our agenda, just quickly going over what we'll cover. We'll do a quick intro on what Bindplane is, because we've had a pretty big growth in our community in the last month or two, and we just want to make sure that we're inclusive and covering the basics for all of our new members. And then, of course, we'll talk about feature updates and what's new with Bindplane, and that's why I have the powerhouses Denton and Dylan here, the D&D, as somebody would say, Dungeons and Dragons, but no, for me that is Denton and Dylan. And then lastly, after the demo, we'll do some community shout outs and of course do some shout outs for upcoming things that we have planned down the line at the end of the month. Yeah, let's jump into a quick little intro and overview of Bindplane. Now, Bindplane is an OpenTelemetry native telemetry pipeline. So what that basically means is that its core functionality is to provide a unified platform so that you can manage and monitor all of your telemetry data across pretty much any source and destination that you want. So it makes it super easy to collect your telemetry data, but it also means that you can process it and then export it to whatever vendor agnostic endpoint or vendor or observability backend that you basically want. It's all built on OpenTelemetry standards, meaning that it's very easy to basically transition from whatever you're using right now into using Bindplane. Or if you don't have any observability pipeline at all, it's very easy to get started just because it's built on OpenTelemetry. And because of this, it's also super easy to manage a fleet of collectors, which means that it's super easy to make your telemetry infrastructure more scalable. And then, of course, it all boils down to cost efficiency. Because of all this, you can obviously set up processors and then, of course, reduce the amount of telemetry that's transitioning or flowing through your system. You have much more control of the telemetry data that you're exporting. So, yeah, of course, cost is a big thing. And then to boil all of this down into the architecture, what it looks like for you as an end user. This is a sample of Bindplane Cloud because we'll use this in the demo today. But of course, it's going to work across the on-prem version as well. It's literally the same. It's just where it's hosted. And then there are two main things that we need to know about the architecture. And first thing is the collectors. So the middle part here. That is quite literally the section or the collectors that run in your network that are responsible for gathering the telemetry data. And then you have the plane, which is on the left side, which is the central control plane that manages and monitors the collectors. And then the communication between the two works on the op-amp protocol, which is established by the collector side to connect to the plane, meaning the management plane, which is Bindplane in this case. And then this obviously means that it's super easy to manage all of the telemetry that basically goes from your system via the collectors into whatever observability storage that you're using. And since, of course, it's OpenTelemetry native, we're using something that's called the Bindplane collector, specifically the Bindplane distro for OpenTelemetry collector, which has built-in op-amp support. And then, of course, it's basically built on the upstream OpenTelemetry collector, so it's just a fork. And everything that the OpenTelemetry collector has, we're supporting in the Bindplane collector, plus the op-amp, which means Open Agent Management Protocol. A key thing here is something that you should remember is that because the Bindplane collector initiates the op-amp connection with Bindplane, telemetry data never flows through Bindplane. It only flows from your collectors into your observability vendor. Bindplane will only show you a preview of the telemetry whilst it's flowing through your network. So that's quite an important thing to note if you have any security concerns or if you have any data restrictions on where you need to keep your data. The data itself never flows through Bindplane. And with that little refresher, I think it's time to actually jump into the fun stuff for today, which is brand new Bindplane updates and new features. So Denton, let me give you the floor to take over.
Yeah, sounds great. So yeah, we've got a couple things that we're going to show. We're going to start though with a quick announcement for anybody who didn't already see it. The Bindplane Gateway is now available across all of our editions. And namely, we're calling out that it is now part of the Bindplane Google edition. So really exciting update there. We're not going to get into the specifics around the gateway. We've covered it in the past, and we've got plenty of great documentation on why you would want to use a gateway. But just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that that's out there and freely available across all the editions. And for the demos, I'm going to start with talking about event breaking. Basically, how do you break apart a batch of logs into individual separate logs before sending them downstream? And then I'm going to hand it over to Dylan to talk about some of the new destinations that we've added to the platform, namely Honeycomb, -0, and Axiom. Awesome. So I'm going to start off here with a demo for the event breaking. Just to give set the context here, I'm capturing data from Azure Event Hub. This could work for any number of sources, but in our experience, Azure Event Hub is actually one that we've seen quite often where this has been really useful. And then I'm sending that data into Elastic Cloud. But again, that could be any number of destinations that we support, and Dylan will talk about a couple new ones. And this is rolled out to my local Mac environment, the collector running on my Mac. But again, this would work across Windows, Linux, and so forth. So we can see we've got some data flowing in this pipeline. If we click into our processor node here and take a look at this data, we can see that we're actually getting batches of syslog-like messages. And this could happen if you were pre-batching data before sending it into the source, like Azure Event Hub, which is exactly what we're doing in this case. And again, these are real-world scenarios that we've run into. So obviously, we don't want to process this log entry as 20 individual or 20 grouped syslog messages. So we want to break those apart into individual messages. And we're going to do that using two processors. So I'm going to first add a processor, and I want to split this apart. So I'm going to add our split transformation processor, and I got to tell it the delimiter. In this case, it is a new line, but it could be a comma or any other delimiter that you might have in your data. And I'm going to split the body of the message. And in this case, I'm just going to overwrite that body with the new array of messages. We could send it to, say, the attributes or the resource, but there's no need to preserve the original body. So we're going to split the body, send it back to the body, and hit done. And now I'm going to squeeze this in and expand that. And we can see step one, we now have an array or list, whatever you want to call it, of individual messages. But again, they're all still grouped together in this single entry. So that's where step two comes in. And if we go to add processor and unroll, this one is nice and easy. There's no configuration needed. It's simply going to do its one job, which is to unroll that list of messages into individual messages. Perfect. We can see here we've got a lot of data flowing, but we can actually see the call out. Hopefully this is big enough to see, but we're actually designating each one of those individual messages. And now we can see that each one of these is its own individual message. So that's great. That's exactly what we were looking for. I apologize. My computer, of course, wants to be slow at exactly the wrong time. But let's go ahead and save that. And we could roll that out to the collector here. So let's roll that out. And it's going to roll out to, again, the collector on my Mac. And now that data is actually split into individual messages. But we've actually released a new feature that makes this even easier and even more manageable. And that's processor bundles. So right now we've got two separate processors in here. And we're going to actually be able to group those together as a processor bundle, right? So let me go back here, and I'm going to go ahead and delete both of these for now. I wanted to show you the specifics of what it will look like. And I'm going to add a processor and add a processor bundle. And this is going to allow me, as the name implies, to group these together so that it's just more manageable. In this case, you're always going to use those two combined, right? You're not going to just split, and you can't just unroll without splitting first. So let's add a processor to this bundle. We're going to do the exact same combination, split, exact same configuration, /n, go to the body, exactly like we did before. We're going to add another processor to this bundle for the unroll. Again, no added configuration. Done. And we're going to give it, we'll give it a name. We'll call it Event Breaker. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the video game Killer Instinct, but every time I hear Event Breaker, I think of Combo Breaker from that game. If you know it, that'll resonate.
Is that the same as Tekken 3?
No, get out of here.
I'm either not old enough or I'm too old.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway. I built the Killer Instinct Gold, so I know exactly what he's talking about.
Exactly. So okay. Awesome. So now we've got
that.
That bundle grouped together, and we could have added more processors, right? As an example, if maybe we wanted to parse these out, parse this syslog into individual fields in the attribute, we could have continued to add more and more processors to that bundle. But for now, and for the purposes of this demo, we wanted to highlight taking this batch of logs, splitting them out and unrolling them into individual events. Save that. And again, we can roll this out and we're off and running. Awesome. So that's what we've got to share or have to share for the event breaking. Hopefully all that makes sense, and all of those processors and everything is available right now for you all to test out. So I'm happy to hand it over to Dylan, and he can highlight some of the new destinations that we've got in the platform.
Yeah, awesome stuff, Denton. Awesome stuff. And yeah, as you said, we have all of this in the documentation right now. We did share some of the links in the chat here, so you can go ahead and check those out, or just go ahead and browse the docs yourself and find this under the processors and under the resources section in the documentation. Cool. Yeah, let me switch everything over to Dylan right now, and let's move into the integrations.
All right. So as mentioned, we do have some new destinations. The first of those is Axiom. And this is a native OTLP accepting destination, so it understands the OpenTelemetry's protocol natively. In fact, all three of these do. And one of our engineers found this, and I wrote a new destination for it. So now we have it. At the same time, I wrote one for -0. They had actually reached out to us through Adnan. I believe it was through you, correct?
Yeah, we had actually had the privilege to meet the guys over at the Dash Zero in Berlin last year, and from that, they're just lovely people. So we stayed in touch. We had a conversation with them, and they're really eager to get an integration with us on both ends. So we're actually working with them to get into their marketplace as well. So any Dash Zero users out there are going to be going to have a super easy way to integrate with Bindplane in the future. So yeah, really thrilled with that.
Yep. And we also have a partnership with Honeycomb. So we do have a destination for them as well. Honeycomb, the docs should already exist. Axiom and Dash Zero are both so new that I haven't actually written the docs fully yet. Adnan will be working on those with me tomorrow, and we should have them up early next week. So
we're just too eager to show you the working product that the docs just have to wait until the end of the week.
Yep. So I do have a predefined pipeline here. I'm not going to set something up on the fly like Denton did. That was a nice demo, Denton. But I do have logs, metrics, and traces. All three of these support logs and traces currently. Axiom is still a work in progress on their metrics ingestion, but it is coming soon. Once it does, we will update our destination to add metrics to that as well. I do have both logs and metrics flowing. And if we pop over here to Honeycomb, we can see here's a couple of my logs. You can see the ingest rate spiked up right before the demo here because I turned this on. And oh, of course, now Dash Zero is not going to want to show me anything. Why? Because I'm not on the right tab. So here we go with logs in Dash Zero. And finally, logs in Axiom. And these are live streaming as we do this. So it's not auto scrolling for some reason, but these logs are still flowing. And that is it. Everything seems to work. If you guys want to give them a shot, it is available today in SaaS and will be available in our next on-prem release. If you do find any issues, please file a report with us so that we can address those. Look forward to hopefully hearing from you guys and your experiences.
Yeah, this is really cool, Dylan. Also, one question here. Using multiple destinations like this, that's something that's possible with pretty much with every configuration setup that you can use. You don't need to do anything special. You just go into the configuration and select however many destinations you want, right?
Yes, I will point out this is our V2 config, which is currently in beta. So this is not the default experience, but you can choose to change that by clicking on this gear. Once you change it, you can't go back. So there's nothing showing here at this time. But if you're on a V1 config and click the cogwheel, it'll ask you if you want to change it to a V2. Like I said, once you change it, you can't go back. It does offer some nifty features. One that we haven't really talked about yet is the ability to add an intermediate processor. By default, you only have the source side processor and destination processor. I was using this config for other purposes and added this intermediate one, which it makes it really nice because in this particular case, I need to batch for all three destinations, so I can handle that with just one intermediate processor node before going out to the three destinations.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would think that since we had a few questions from you community members regarding how many destinations they can use with a single config and whether they do need to do something special like with a gateway, that's basically a no. So you can use however many destinations you want in a config, and there's quite literally nothing special you have to do. You just add a new destination, and I think that quality of life and that is just so convenient.
Yep, and here's our ever expanding list. I'll do a quick scroll.
And it would be super happy to hear from the community what you think regarding new destinations that you would need from basically what we have now. Whenever there's an OTLP compatible endpoint that a vendor has, it's quite easy for us to add that into their product. And then of course it's all depending on your needs and what the community needs, and we can prioritize based on that. But yeah, I really like this update. Sweet. Yeah, with the demo, I think Dylan and Denton have done pretty much all of the heavy lifting for today's community call. So we only really have a few more minutes, and I think we're going to jump right into the community shoutouts. So you were from the community were super hyped with the integrating Bindplane with Google SecOps workshop that Denton here and myself did at the end of January. So we decided to do it again. So you are up for another revamped version of the integrating Bindplane with Google SecOps on February 26th. So I think Denton is more hyped than I am. I would say he's the most hyped because we had an inside joke where we wanted to have so many people and so many community members and so many prospects joining that Denton would be super stressed, but he took it like a champ. So he was absolutely killing it. Yeah, I would want you to help me to make him even more stressed for this one. So Denton, I think you would agree.
Yeah, I'm not sure why we're so focused on making me stressed, but hey, let's do it. Let's see how many we can get in in the webinar. Really exciting. We had a ton of participation last time, a ton of questions. I think we're going to have to staff up the call just to handle all the questions that we were getting. So that's great. Really excited to see all of the interest in the product and so forth. So yeah, come on by. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, definitely.
You're just so calm. Sorry, Adnan. You're just so calm, cool, and collected, Denton, that we want to find your breaking. We want to find where your limits are.
Push it to the edge. That sounds great. We'll see what we can do.
I don't think Denton has a breaking point. He is cool like a cucumber. He is.
Thanks, guys.
On point. I love it. But yeah, so I think we had 120, 30 odd questions the last time. So definitely for this one in February, bring your questions. We're happy to answer as many as we can. And of course, you can register by going to the website, integrating Google SecOps with Bindplane. It's a nifty little form that you just enter your email. You'll get a Zoom invite and you're ready to go. You get a calendar invite to save the date, and you're gonna get notified on time. And yeah, then one more thing that we have for if you actually want to check the recording for the webinar in January, you can just jump over to our YouTube channel, and on the homepage of the YouTube channel, you'll see the recording for the January edition. Just in case you want to touch up on your skills, and if maybe we didn't answer any questions in January, you can pop in February at the end of the month and ask questions. And then of course for the monthly community calls, we have a little landing page that you can now go to and join our community calls on demand, so you don't really need to do anything special. You just pop into bindplane.com/community call and you're done and you're ready to go. And then lastly, I want to give a shout out for a blog post by Joe from our team. He did an absolutely phenomenal job for explaining OpenTelemetry in production. So just giving a really deep dive on a primer on OpenTelemetry. And this is a great resource for the community. I think that it's something that I would definitely will keep as a bookmark and just reread every once in a while, because of how high quality the explanation here is. So definitely do check it out. And yeah, that would be it for the community shoutouts. Now we can take a second for our Q&A, and there are some specific things I do want to chat about during the Q&A as well, and that's some of our questions from the community. And I think it's great that I have both Dylan and Denton here in the call, because Dylan is actually super active in the community, so you most definitely have seen him answer questions, and specifically this one by our member Francisco is super interesting. We did briefly discuss this, but Dylan, you can also confirm that the way the Bindplane collector communicates with Bindplane, the plane, is always going to be initiated by the collector. Am I right?
That is correct. It was an intentional decision on our part, so that you only had to open up firewall going outbound from your network. That way you wouldn't have to have any inbound connections. That's a real common security concern, and one that we were able to just avoid by using a WebSocket connection outbound that is a permanent connection. It stays established, and the agent and the server communicate back and forth across it.
Yeah, and then because it's a WebSocket connection, it's just so much more convenient to have it open from the inside out, so to say. And that's really, really cool. And then we did have one more that I wanted to give a shout out for all of our new community members. And that's specifically talking about, I think it's talking about blocked ports and firewall settings. Specifically, this part right here. So you need to have port 3001 open. Now, is this for inbound or outbound now?
That is the outbound port. That is for outbound to a self-hosted Bindplane. If you are connecting to our SaaS platform, it would be the standard HTTPS port of 443.
Got it. Yeah, so that's basically, I've seen many recurring questions in the community where these little, I'm going to say, frequently asked little nifty things are really cool to cover here in the community call as well.
And there is one more thing I'd like to dive into from this question. You'll see Travis's last comment there, mentioning that it is a WebSocket connection, which we also already mentioned. There is something important to know about that. There are some load balancers and some proxies that will not play nice with WebSockets or gRPC protocol, which is also used by a lot of our destinations. So if you are experiencing connection issues and you're using a proxy or a load balancer, that is something that is possibly the problem. The core issue is that those proxies and load balancers will not upgrade a connection to HTTP2, which is required under the hood for both WebSocket and gRPC. So examine your collector log files and reach out to our support team, and we'll get you squared away.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, I think that's all the time we had for today. So we have to start wrapping up. And for the wrap up, let's just do a recap of everything we did talk about today. We have 2 new major releases. We have the event breaking with the split and unroll processors, and then we have new integrations. Honeycomb was released a while back, and then we have -0 and Axiom that were released this week actually, and we're still working on the documentation for those. And yeah, lastly, tune in for the live workshop at the end of the month, February 26th at 11 a.m. We're going to be talking about Google SecOps again. And yeah, very welcome to join. Yeah, with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and yeah, you guys as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you, and see you guys on the next one.
Yeah, catch you in the next community call. And yeah, thank you, and bye-bye.